Hello, welcome to the Pro MMA Betting Podcast. So we're going to break down the Sandhagen versus the returning TJ Dillashaw card this weekend at the Apex. So no crowd. Well, actually, they've got limited crowd now. I think that's only like about 150 people, so it's not really going to make any difference. But they do have a small crowd in there now. I think they had it last week, and it's going to be a regular thing. So Apex this Saturday. Decent card this one. Looking forward to seeing TJ's return. Just to recap on last week and how we got on with the predictions. So we went 8-2 on predictions. I predicted 3 underdogs on the card would come through. 2 of them did that I called. Morozov won, and also Malcolm Gordon, the one that I was very unconfident in, but I just felt I had to pick him. I felt the line was too wide, and he came through as well. One I was incorrect on was I picked Marion Renault. She didn't come through, and the other underdog that did come through was Gabriel Benitez. So we'll break down this card from bottom to top, see if there's any underdogs we like. Remember, guys, it's a betting podcast. I'm not just picking who I think wins. I'm going on value and where I think the odds lie. If someone's an implied 60% favourite, do I think that this is a 50-50 fight? If I do, then I have to pick the underdogs. That's where I feel the value lies. So it is a betting prediction podcast. I'm not just picking who I think wins necessarily. Nothing is set in stone rule-wise when I say this. Sometimes I will just stick with my gut. I did do it on a fight last week. I can't remember what fight it was off the top of my head, but I felt the line was off, and I didn't pick the underdog though. I still stuck. I think it was the Gamrot fight. I felt the line was off and wide, and Stevens was live. And I mean, obviously, he looked a minus 800 favourite, but I just stuck with my gut. I'm sure it was that fight where I just said the line's possibly off and there's value on Stevens, but I'm still keeping Gamrot as my pick. I just had a funny feeling, and when I have that, I don't like going against it. But you know, general rule of thumb, I will go with the underdog if I feel there's value there. To remind everyone as well, it is a premium service that I offer to members. I offer a pre-betting service and live betting service. Pre-bets are emailed out. Live betting service is on a private Discord channel where I will throw out live betting tips during the fights. The chat is frozen, so no one can contribute to the chat during the fight, so you will only see my tips. Everything is tracked as well, guys. I'm 100% transparent. There's no hiding anything. It's black and white with me. If you go to the website prommmabetting.com, on the home page, as soon as the website opens, you'll see 3 icons, a direct link to betmma.tips, and there's 2 other icons for betting.gs, which will take you directly to live betting tips that are tracked, and also to any other bets. So maybe if there's a boxing bet, or there's a double on the UFC and boxing, I can't track that on betmma.tips, so I have to put it on betting.gs. So everything's tracked. If you've been with me for the last 3 years, and you bet £100 per unit, you're up about 28 grand. That's if you've been applying yourself to all the pre-bets and following us on all the live betting tips as well. So have a look at the website for the membership packages, prommmabetting.com. Weekly, monthly, 6 monthly, yearly packages available. Yearly has the most value, and I'm not just saying that because it's a yearly and obviously the most expensive. It works out cheaper than paying for it every month. And you need to view it as a long-term service, guys. There's peaks and troughs with betting. We can't win every week. There's bad spells. There's good spells. There's one good week, one bad week. You just have to ride the wave. And at the end of the year, we come out in profit. I haven't had a losing year. But you have to consider the dips. You know, it's like the stock market. One day the stock market's up. The next day it's down. There's peaks and troughs. You just have to trust the long-term service and trust that you end in profit. And like I said, over 3 years, £28,000 profit. Any questions about the service or signing up for the membership, feel free to hit me up on Twitter. Probably the quickest way to get me. I am at Pro MMA Betting, so feel free to give me a follow, or my DMs are open. Any questions? So we're going to dive into this card, as always, from bottom to top. So first 2 fights on this card are my favourite low-level women's MMA fights. Regular listeners will know the rule that I have. General rule of thumb is bet the dog. And in the first fight, I am sticking with that policy, although I haven't bet it myself. I think there was value on Bell Beta anywhere plus 120 or better. It's approaching an even money line now, which feels right to me. It's a hard fight to get a read on. Bell Beta's got her own concerns. The last fight against Jojua, terrible fight IQ, Costa the win. She gave a decent performance against Molly. You can see she's scrappy, she's game, she'll come to fight. Goldy, not seen her for 2 years. There could be improvements there, but her style, she's more of a counter striker, which might play into her hands here, Belbita's aggression. But Belbita is coming down from 125. Goldy is pretty small, so there could be a significant size difference there. Unless you're high level women's MMA, normally reach it doesn't really make any difference because they just can't utilise it. So in terms of size difference with reach and height, I'm not thinking it's going to play a massive role here. But Belbita will bring it, but it might just play into Goldy's hands. But I'm still going to pick Belbita just because she is still the underdog. I wouldn't bet her now. Like I said, plus 120 or better I would have taken. But at the moment, it's a pass fight for me. I think Pick'em is roughly right, but plus 120 or better was the right bet in my opinion. Second lower level women's MMA fight, we've got Sijara Eubanks returning to 125. So first time she's been at 125 since she faced Roxanne Modafferi nearly 3 years ago now. She missed weight for that fight, and ever since then she's been up at 135. I quite like Sarge. I mean, you look at Sarge's resume. She hasn't had it easy at all. Everyone she's fought is a decent fighter. Even before she made her UFC or Ultimate Fighter debut, her first 4 fights, 2 of her opponents were Aspen and Caitlin Chikagan. And then in the UFC, she's not had it easy at all. Okay, she had a bit of maybe a gimme now in hindsight in her Ultimate Fighter debut. But also on the Ultimate Fighter, she fought Deanna Bennett and Roxy. They're not gimme fights. And then in the UFC, she's fought good fighters. Sarah Morris may be the easiest. Well, she is the easiest opponent she's had, but otherwise she's fought Roxy again, she's fought Aspen Ladd, she's fought Betch Coher, Julia Revilla, Ketlin Vieira, last fight Pani Kianzad. She's not had an easy run at all. So you see the 6-6 record, which her Ultimate Fighter fight should be on there as well, so she should be more like 8-6 or 9-6. I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 fights I think she has. It should show 9-6 really, but she's not had an easy run, is what I'm trying to say. She's taking on the debuting Elsie Reed here, who now there's going to be a big size disadvantage here because Elsie has fought as an atomweight, so she's fought at 105. She has been fighting at 115 recently, her last few fights, but she's moving up to 125 here. So there is going to be a size discrepancy. She's a very good striker, but the problem with most women's MMA fighters, they just don't have power to put you away. So it's likely she's going to need to win a decision to win this. And I just can't see her stand on her feet. Sarge has got good takedowns. Obviously, her gas tank can be a concern, especially if she's moving back down to 125. But even so, I still think she grinds this win out. And, I think she'll definitely be fine for the first couple of rounds. I think once she gets Elsie down, I don't see Elsie getting back to her feet. Sarge is a good grappler. She's got decent takedowns. And the tape tells me as well that Elsie's takedown defence is a big weakness. It's not great. I just think this is a really tough stylistic fight for her. People are probably parlaying Sarge up. See, I'm not going to condone that. I don't. I try to avoid the juice on MMA, especially women's MMA. But I'm not surprised the line is where it is. The angle I was looking at for this fight, in terms of value, is actually the over. Now it's over 2.5, but it's actually down to like minus 140. Now, Sarge isn't a finisher, but this is a step down in competition for her. She's been fighting girls that are going to be tough to finish. The only finishes she has are on the Ultimate Fighter. She got a submission in her first fight, and Deanna Bennett she caught with a head kick. So really low percentage. Let's be real. She did finish the 2 girls she faced in her first 4 fights that weren't Aspen Ladd and Caitlin Chikagan, 2 girls I've never even heard of. Obviously, Elsie is going to be a step above them. So, as it's women's MMA, the over is kind of where I'm going here. But I do kind of get why the line's been bet down, because if Sarge gets her down and she can't get back up, it could be very one-sided. And I remember Sarge nearly pounded out Betch Coher in the first round. If Elsie hasn't got much about her on the bottom, and like I said, I don't think she's going to be able to get back to her feet, and then it is a concern. So the more I think about it, the more I'm thinking it will just be a big sweat, because I think best case if you bet the over, Sarge comes out and is happy to strike for minutes and just go for takedowns, maybe with a couple of minutes left. But if Sarge comes out and she's looking for the takedowns early, then 4 minutes of Sarge on top's a long time when there's going to be a big skill discrepancy and size. It's never easy being against someone bigger than you when you're on the bottom, because you've not only got the bigger opponent on you, you're fighting against gravity as well. It's just a nightmare. So, but it is women's MMA at the end of the day. Not often you get an over 2.5 at minus 140 on women's MMA. And I definitely don't see a finish from either stand-in. So, realistically, it's a Sarge, either ground and pound or submission you're betting against if you take the over. So, I don't know. It is a tough one. Maybe there isn't any value, to be honest. Maybe it's a 50-50 because I do expect Sarge to win here. So, but I'm sure plenty of people have got a parlayed up. That definitely won't surprise me, and the line will probably get wider come fight night. Next fight on the card, guys. Let's just bring the card back up. We've got Julio Arce taking on Andre Ewell. So we haven't seen Arce for about 18 months now. He's moving back down to 135 here. He's not been at 135 for quite some time. I think it was his last fight with Brian Kelleher that he lost. Was the last time he fought at 135, which is going all the way back. We're talking 5 years ago. So how comfortable is he making 135? I mean, he's a big 145er, so he should be okay. He obviously decided this after he had a couple of losses. Shayman Moraes and Hakeem beat him last time out, and sandwiched in between, he got that head kick knockout against Julian Erosa. Arce's a good striker. He comes from the Tiger Shulman camp, solid striking skills. He can mix in grappling as well, though. We saw it against Daniel Tamor. He got the submission. We saw him in the first round actually get on Shayman Moraes' back for a good couple of minutes, and he took Hakeem Dawaldu's back as well. And I think that is the ace in the pack he has in this fight with Andre Ewell. Now on the feet, I think it'll be competitive early. The problem Andre Ewell has is he has this great reach advantage over everyone, but he does slow down in fights, and it's pretty much every fight he slows down. By the third round, he just doesn't seem to win round 3 in fights. He really has a problem with his gas tank. So that's a concern here, and also we have seen him taken down as well. Nathaniel Wood mixed in takedowns and got the submission on him. Erwin Rivera struggled with takedowns, if memory serves me right. I think he did get him down towards the end of the third round, but there is a path there, and we have seen Arce on multiple opponents' back, so I think Arce will do well here to mix things up. Keep your guessing, maybe make him a little bit hesitant on his boxing. But I mean, even if it stays on the feet, I still have to favour Arce. It's just I'm not loving the price. He's sitting at about minus 190. I'm just not seeing the value. What did interest me is the submission price. I just want to see what that is because I haven't actually looked at that yet. But I was wondering about what Arce submission would pay since I've done tape. So let's have a look. It's not even that great. Plus 450. I thought it was going to be wider than that. TKO is actually plus 600. So yeah, people have caught onto that. Is that what it opened at? Plus, where is it? Your submission. Arce submission plus 450. And it's saying that's what it opened at. Yeah, the books are. That's pretty smart. I thought it was going to get a better line than that. Kind of puts me off plus 450 because you can see it being a stand-up fight, but I can see Arce just mixing it up. So it just makes me nervous betting decision. I bet the decision line's probably borderline minus money. Your decision, Arce decision. I mean, yeah, like plus 120, plus 115. I'd want better than that to take the decision because I do worry about a submission. It's definitely a weakness of yours. He did manage to get up against Dos Santos when he got taken down, but Dos Santos had him against the fence and he was able to push off the fence and get up, if memory serves me right, but he was getting mounted easily. It's just a concern for me, especially in round 3 when he's tired. But price I'm not loving, so I am going to pick Arce here. Interested to see how he looks at 135 because he is a good fighter. He's just been inactive. and Yaw is, like I say, he slows down. He's got decent striking, but he does slow down, and his ground is a weakness as well. So I have to side with Arce here. Next fight on the card, guys. Let's bring the card back up. I think this is a 12-fight card. So we've covered 3 fights so far. It's probably a 6-fight main event. So the next 4 fights are probably the Fight Pass prelim fights. 1, 2, 3, 4. You'll also was the first fight. Actually on ESPN. Sorry. So these are the ESPN fights. The ones before the Arce fight were the Fight Pass fights. So Adrian Yanez, Randy Costa next. This is a tough one because Randy Costa has never won a fight past 2 minutes 30 of round 1, which, even as a big underdog here, you can get plus 170-ish. It's just tough to pull the trigger. Adrian Yanez is the more proven fighter across 3 rounds. And the one time we did see Randy go past 2 minutes 30, he gassed out and lost. So it's a concern. He has switched things up. He's at Sanford now. Sanford seems to be doing really good things at the moment, so it's probably a good career move for him. But for me, there's no value on Yanez. So I like Yanez. He's got good boxing, sharp hands, but look, I know Randy Costa hasn't fought anyone great either. But at the end of the day, neither's Adrian Yanez. In the UFC, if you look at the run he's had, he's coming off fights against Gustavo Lopez, Victor Rodriguez, and on the Ultimate Contender Series, Brady Hung. So, he's looked good, but he hasn't fought anyone really. I watched his fight, not recently, but I have watched his fight with Carl Estrada. That was a close fight. But is Randy going to slow down? But I'm going to pick Randy, guys, just because the line's too wide. Look, Yanez should be the favourite just because he's shown that he can go 3 rounds, he can fight long, he doesn't gas out. And there is that question mark with Randy. He does need to fight a bit more disciplined because he's not going to get everyone out there in round 1, especially in the 135 division. You're just not going to be putting people away quickly. So just purely based on the value here, I am going to go with Costa. And he is dangerous as well at the end of the day. It's not like I'm, picking someone that's feather-fisted here. That it would not shock me if he came out and got another round 1 victory. But Yanez is sharp, he's got good boxing, he could get caught himself. And if he slows down, Yanez will take over. So I think if you bet him, you've got to keep it small because there is, gas tank is huge in MMA. Huge, absolutely vital. And if you come out and, puts it on him in round 1 and Yanez survives and he slows down, Yanez will take over. So you've got to keep it small. I guess you've got to look at the round 1 prop as well for Costa, just because it is Costa. Let's see if we're getting silly money on it, or is it not worth a sprinkle? Let's see. Round 1, Randy Costa plus 800. Oh no, actually plus 800. I don't know what book that is, but I'm seeing plus 800 on one book, and then a couple of other books have got plus 500. I think the plus 800 is worth a sprinkle. Plus 500, not so keen on, to be completely honest. Let's see what they've got. Costa round 1 TKO. That's plus 800. I'd probably rather take that than the plus 500, to be honest. Costa of TKO round 1. If I was going to play it, I'm not really around prop better. It's not really my style. But if you are, then it's potentially one that is of interest. But then obviously I think you've got to look the other way for Yanez then and look at Yanez winning in round 2 and round 3. What's that paying? So Yanez wins in round 3 plus 1,000. Yanez wins in round 2 plus 500. So I don't know, round 3 little sprinkle if if that's the way you like to place your bets. Knocking out a gassed Randy Costa, but it's kind of hard to see the fight even reaching round 3 because they're both sharp with their hands. They've both got power. I don't know, but I'm going to pick Costa just because I feel the money line's a bit wide. I don't think he should be this big of a favourite, Yanez. He should be the favourite. I agree with that, but plus I'm seeing plus 230. here, probably, plus 225. Minus 230, minus 225. Costa you can get at that plus 185 at some books. I've got to go Costa. It's very risky. Keep it small, but I just feel the line is too wide, in my opinion. So Randy Costa, I'm going, and hopefully he comes out fighting measured. If he comes out like a ball in a china shop, it's obviously not going to bode well if your knee survives. Next, Ian Heinisch taking on Nassourdine Imavov. I went into tape wanting to bet Imavov here, but what I didn't like about Imavov is how he fights, basically. I thought he was, I don't know why, but in my head I had him being someone that kind of fights on the outside, and I thought that's just money as an underdog against Ian, because Ian's difficulty is he has got a bit of a T-Rex kind of reach. He needs to be in the pocket to land. And I thought Imavov could pick him apart from the outside, but it's just not Imavov's style. It's not how he fights. He very much steps in to land shots. So when he does step in to land shots, he's going to give Ian the chance to land back, basically. The other X factor here is Ian does have some wrestling chops. He's probably going to look to put Imavov on the fence like Hawes did. He's probably going to look to mix in takedowns. And on the feet, he's going to give Ian chances to land. Remember, he was completely off on Imavov and his style, which is a shame that it was so off, because I did think, but that does it like a good line to take on Imavov. But it just put me off after doing the tape. So I'm still going to pick the underdog here, because I do like Imavov's game. I think he's a decent fighter, and Ian, why he does have some great attributes, like he's very physical, he's very tough to take down, he scrambles very well. Kind of irrelevant here. Imavov isn't going to be looking to take him down. If anything, it'll be Ian looking to mix in the wrestling. And Imavov did struggle in that sense against Hawes, so that there is a path there for Ian. So I can see why he is the favourite, but at the same time, it's not really been a path that he's exploited in the UFC in terms of coming out and taking guys down and keeping top control. But on the feet, I have to favour Imavov, even though he does come in. I do favour his style on the feet, but it's a tough fight to call. I'm just going to go with Imavov just because he's the underdog. But in complete honesty, when I'm thinking about the fight now, breaking it down, I do feel the line's probably right. With the wrestling Ian has, there is an X factor here, and on the feet, I give the edge to Imavov, but I wouldn't be shocked if Ian ends up getting the better on the feet. He can crack. If he hurts Imavov, he might get Imavov's respect. Might make Imavov more hesitant, especially with his style, with the way he steps in. So I don't feel like there's any value. If anything, what I do like on this fight is looking at it going to a decision. Imavov seems durable. Ian is very durable. I don't see Ian being finished at all. So let's have a look at the over, which is sitting at minus 220. No real value on that. Imavov by decision is plus 275. See, that I can get behind, because I don't see him finishing Ian. I do see this being a close competitive fight. I think that has value. So plus 275 Imavov decision, I think that's a decent bet. And then Ian decision is probably rubbish. Let's have a quick look. Yeah, well, you can get yeah, it looks like plus 140, plus 145. There's a couple of books showing plus 125, plus 120. But I think if you feel strongly about Ian and you're confident, obviously, he's not a massive favourite. So stick most of your money on the money line, as I always say. But I would reserve maybe 20% of what you're putting on the money line for Ian decision. That's if you feel, you're quite confident in Ian here and you're betting his money line anyway. I'd contribute a bit of that money towards the decision line, because I do see this going to a decision. But that Imavov line, I think, for someone that was kind of fence sitting like me, that's enough. That's probably enough for me to pull the trigger on Imavov there, because I definitely don't see a finish, and I do think there's value on that decision line. So I'm going to pick Imavov because of the dog odds. But like I said, I don't really think there's any particular value on it. I think, if anything, the value lies on Imavov decision. So I'll go with Imavov. So I'll pick my second underdog in a row. Next fight on the card, we've got Punahele Soriano taking on Brendan Allen. Soriano, I still have reservations about past round one. Now, he's obviously very dangerous early. The guy's got big power in his hands, knockout ability. And against someone like Brendan Allen, that could definitely get him a round one knockout. Because Brendan, he is hittable. He can be cracked. But I do just worry about him going long. We saw him on the Contender Series against Jamie Pickett, slowed down badly after round one in that fight. Even against Oscar Pichota, I thought he looked like he was slowing down a bit in that fight. And the same against Dusko. Even I know he got a knockout, but after Dusko survived the first knockdown, or maybe even the second one, I just thought it looked like he's slowing down here. I mean, he's still got the knockout, so he still carries power. Dusko probably hadn't recovered properly, but the concern is him getting into round two, because if you look at his record, he's only been past round one once, and the one time he did, he slowed down and had to revert to his wrestling. Now, he has got wrestling chops, which is definitely useful in your to have in your back pocket. Brendan Allen is someone that he's not going to slow down over 3 rounds. He's going to have the cardio advantage. His stand-up looked a bit better in his last fight against Robertson. Now, he obviously got the submission win, and he was getting takedowns in that fight, but we didn't see much stand-up. From what we saw, he looked a bit better. He's gone over to Sanford now, and he looked a bit more solid on the feet. So I think there are some stand-up improvements being made. We'll probably get to see more of that here if he survives early, because I don't think he's just going to be able to take Soriano down like he was taking down Robertson. So probably get a better look at his stand-up here. But he is hittable. He's got that kind of style where he gets in your face. He likes a dirty fight, and that is dangerous against Soriano. So I can see people on either side here. I can see the Soriano angle, just catching him and knocking him out, and I can see the Brendan Allen angle, surviving and coming on strong and winning the fight down the stretch. I don't really know what Soriano's takedown defence is like. Obviously, he has the wrestling background, but I wonder once he tires, is Brendan Allen going to be able to get him down to the mat? You don't really want Brendan Allen on top of you. So that's an interesting angle that I just don't really have a read on. But I think fresh, definitely Soriano advantage. He's got the power advantage. He's southpaw, he can crack. But on the feet, if he slows down, then it definitely brings Brendan Allen into the fight. So I think last I looked, it was a pick-em. It feels about right. I've got to be honest. It feels about right on this fight. It could definitely go one of two ways. So I'm going to just pick Brendan Allen here to survive round one and take over the fight. But I'm not confident in that at all. And there's no guarantee that even if Soriano's a little bit tired, that Brendan Allen wins the stand-up in rounds 2 and 3. Soriano's landing the more eye-catching shots, then he could nick around. And he does have the wrestling as well. Let's remember that he could get takedowns on Brendan Allen. Brendan Allen doesn't have good takedown defence. We saw that in the Cole Dorcas fight, which actually is making me want to change my mind here. Dorcas is a good grappler, submission threat, but Brendan Allen was actually ending up on top quite a lot. He was scrambling well, so how's Soriano's top control going to be? It's hard to know, because Jamie Pickett just, he isn't Brendan Allen. It's a step down. So I'm going to go Brendan Allen. I'm going to go Brendan Allen to have a rough round one to survive and take over. But there's a lot of unknowns in this fight. A lot of unknowns, with Soriano only being past round one once. What improvements has Brendan Allen made on his stand-up? Didn't get to see a great deal of it against Robertson, but he from what I saw, it did look like there was some. It looked a bit sharper to me. But pick'em line, there's no value. I don't see the value. So it's, in terms of from a value perspective, I don't think there's any. But I'm going to say Brendan Allen. He's not even the underdog. It is literally a pick'em. So last fight on the preliminary card, I think we've got Mickey Gall taking on. One sec, guys. I can't remember who Mickey's fighting. Jordan Williams. Oh, this is the main card, actually. So this is the first fight on the main card. Jordan's moving down to welterweight here, so it's at 170. I just wonder his gas tank. Now, he does slow down in fights. He has fought at 185 because he is a diabetic. He didn't want to make the cut. Obviously, something's changed, so he's making the cut now. But it's not going to help his cardio making that cut. If anything, it's going to affect it, and it's not great already. But he does crack. He's very dangerous early on. Solid striking. He's got a decent chin, and he will keep fighting even when he tires. He still fights. Mickey Gall we last saw against Mike Perry. And I mean, the problem with Mickey Gall is he slows down as well, but like really badly in his fights. He slowed against Perry, he slowed against Salim, he slowed against Diego. I know Diego, he blamed it on the weight cut, but I didn't hear any excuses for the Salim and Perry ones. It's just the cardio just dies. He got out grappled in round 3 against Randy Brown. He just doesn't have cardio. He's a tough guy. He went the distance with Perry, took some decent shots, and he actually looked all right against Perry early. His stand-up looked better. I mean, I don't know what version of Perry we were getting there. Not a very good version, but he did look better on the feet, and he's decent on top if he can get you down. But Jordan Williams has got a decent wrestling background. I was actually going to pick Mickey Gall just because he was the underdog, but just thinking about it, I just can't. Like I said, I know Jordan gasses, but Mickey gasses as well. He hits harder. Gall, I don't think has any knockouts on his record. I know he drops Sage and followed that with a choke. It was a weird shot on the top of the head. It was just bizarre. He was landing some decent shots on Mike Perry, but I've got to go Jordan here. I think if Jordan doesn't get him out of there in round 1, I think it's going to become very messy. I think both will slow. I think it will become a bit of a war of attrition, but I've got to favour Jordan even in the war of attrition. We've seen him do that on the Contender Series, even against Imavov. The guy kept coming. He's got heart. He'll keep fighting. He's got the power advantage. I think Mickey's going to struggle to get Jordan down. So, the betting line, Jordan is anywhere from minus 180 to minus 200. It's tough to bet someone that gasses and who's moving down in weight here. But he's facing another gasser. He's the better striker. He's got more power. I don't see him getting him down. I've got to go Jordan here. Even as the favourite, I have to pick Jordan. But I do think it is a messy fight past round 1. I can just see both slowing and it becoming, as I said, a war of attrition. But I'm going with the favourite here in Jordan Williams because I'm just struggling to see how Mickey wins the fight. In all honesty. Next fight. So this is a real good fight. This is the 3rd women's MMA fight on the card. I think it's the 3rd and final, but it's definitely the best one. We have Macy Barber taking on Miranda Maverick. So Macy's coming off that loss to Alexa Grasso. She was off for some time after the knee injury against Roxy. She came back against Grasso. I was on Grasso there. Grasso basically outstruck her the first couple of rounds. She also ended up on top in round 2 after Macy ended up on top, but armbar from Grasso, I think it was, used it to reverse her, ended up on top. And in round 3, Barber kind of went savage mode round 3, and she did take the 3rd round. She was just kind of coming at Grasso hard. She does hit hard, Macy. I think this is what catches a lot of girls unawares, is they're not used to being kind of swarmed and mauled. And obviously she hits hard as well. And it's why she's got a couple of standing knockout wins, like against Gillian and JJ Aldridge. They was both from the standing position where she just overwhelmed them. And I honestly think the girls were just kind of whoa, what is this? I've never been kind of hit like this before. So she does have that element of surprise. She's good in the clinch. She's got nice elbows. But the question mark with her is the grappling side of things. I know she injured her knee against Roxy, but she was losing that fight before the knee injury. She got taken down. She was getting controlled on the floor. I think it was the start of round 2. She hurt her knee and she clearly lost round 1. And even, a little snippet against Alexa, she ended up on top. I think she took Grasso down. Grasso, I'm sure it was the armbar she went for, used it to reverse, ended up on top, and I think she kept top control for the last minute of the round. So the grappling is the question mark. And Miranda Maverick. So physicality is a big thing for Maycee Barber. She's facing someone here in Miranda who's going to match that physicality. Miranda's a very good athlete. Look at her shoulders. She's got, the type of shoulders that most men desire. She's very physically strong. Her striking is pretty solid herself. You saw that in the Joe Dewar fight. Busted Joe Dewar up. She got a cut stoppage, wrecked her nose. But the ace in the pack for me here is the grappling of Maverick. She's a very good grappler. If you go back and watch her fights pre-UFC, she out-wrestles and out-grapples Pel Gonzalez and Deanna Bennett. And, I know what people are thinking, they're not great though. But by women's MMA standards, Pel and Deanna are good wrestlers. And, this is Maverick going in. And, the Pel fight was 18 months ago. The Deanna Bennett fight was almost 2 years ago. Back then she's out-wrestling them, taking them down. She dominated Pel and she got the submission on Deanna in the third round. We haven't really seen her use offensively so much. She hasn't needed to. Joe Dewar, the danger was on the ground there, so she outstruck her. And obviously we all know Jillian's a very dangerous grappler. And, she did use her defensive grappling very well against Jillian. Jillian, she had a decent round 2, Jillian, with the grappling. But Jillian could never really get anything going, though. She defended well, and she used her physicality to overpower her. In just trying to recall the first and third rounds. Third round, definitely. I remember Jillian nearly got a takedown, but the physicality of Maverick was just too much. She's very physical. So I think on the feet, it's a hard fight to call. But I definitely give the grappling advantage to Maverick. She's got good takedowns, and I just wonder if Barber has anything off her back if she gets taken down. And you've got to think, if she's game planned accordingly, Maverick, that she's going to mix in the grappling here. No need to stand with Macy for 3 rounds when you probably have an advantage on the floor. So I'm going with Maverick here, just being more well-rounded. I think she can win a decision here, mixing in the grappling. If she does elect to stand for 3, then it suddenly becomes a very close fight. But fight IQ of Maverick has been solid so far. I don't see any reason why she's not going to mix in the grappling. Like I said, she's got good takedowns, and I'm not sold on Maverick's takedown defence. Barber's takedown defence. We don't have a lot to go off, but you look at the Roxy fight in round 1. It was an easy takedown. It's a bit of a concern, and she had nothing off her back. And I know in round 2 and 3 her knee was compromised, but still, I didn't like what I saw off her back. Even if your knee's compromised, you can still kind of defend yourself and do the right things. But it was just a domination. So I'm favouring Maverick here due to the grappling edge. So I'm going to be picking Maverick. Next fight on the card, I think it's the Darren Elkins fight taking on Darrick Minner. Look, I know some people that are really confident in Darrick Minner here. JT, one of our members, is very confident in Darrick. I think he's said he might have been betting it. I don't know. I don't have a strong feeling on this fight. Maybe Darrick has turned the corner and he's a new improved fighter. He did look decent against Rosa. He overwhelmed Rosa on the feet. He got the easy takedowns. I think he only got maybe one takedown. He just a couple of them were one of them he dropped him and then got on top, and then I can't remember how the other one occurred. I don't think it was a takedown per se. I think it was just like a weird scramble. I don't know, maybe Elkins Rosa shot and he just ended up on his back. But I do have difficulty seeing past Minner's record. And what I mean by that is he's pretty much a round 1 or bust guy, or he was. And you look for his record, if he doesn't get the win in round 1, things normally go downhill for him. He's not normally a decision winner. It's normally finish or bust. Been finished like 10 times. But he did make the move to Krause's camp. Even in round 1 against Grant Dawson, he had some decent submission attempts on Grant. Grant came through and got the submission in round 2. And then he got that quick win over TJ Laramie, who, bizarre fight IQ, going for the takedown on Minner immediately. Way too risky. And then he got the dominant win over Charles Rosa. So, has he turned that corner? The the thing is as well, cardio for me with Minna. Now, Rosa just didn't offer anything. You know, he was just ending up on his back straight away each round. You know, someone like Minna is going to have the experience. If you can't get up to your feet, which Rosa is terrible at, he's not going to gas just maintaining top control for 3 rounds. So I just wonder how it holds up in a fight where he's pushed more. And Darren Elkins is definitely past his best. You could say he's a shot fighter. How much does he have left? Does he have enough left to beat Minna? I mean, he was going to lose that fight to Garagori till he pulled that submission out in round 3. But to be fair, Garagori's not a bad striker. But you look at, before that, he's got 4 straight losses. It is tough to bet Darren because he's definitely on the slide. But on the feet, I don't really know how this plays out. Looking at that Rosa fight, he just kind of overwhelmed him with strikes, but there wasn't much on the feet. Elkins can take a shot. I know he's, I still can't say he's chinny. He still took them shots against Garagori, even against Nate Landwehr. State of his face. But you've got to be so careful mixing in the takedowns. And what I did see, Elkins, when he goes for takedowns, he leaves his head on the outside a lot. You've got to be so careful against Minna with that guillotine. In my opinion, it's a live bet fight. I'm not pre-betting it. Who do I pick? I guess I'll go with Minna, but I don't like the line. I'm not betting it. I just don't have a strong feel for this fight. I've got to be completely honest. I don't know how this fight plays out. I don't think there's any value on Minna, as I said, but I'm struggling to want to bet Elkins either. So I will sit this out from a pre-betting perspective and just see how the chips fall. Maybe my read's off. Like I said, I know some guys that really like Minna here, but I'm struggling to see past his historical record. So I will pick Minna here just because I feel Elkins is definitely shot. And the move to Krause's camp is definitely a positive for Minna. I think he's training full time now, so I'll stick with Minna. But value perspective, I don't think there is any, and I can't bet someone like Minna as a favourite until he proves me completely wrong. And I can't just take the Rosa fight as him having turned the corner. It was too one way for me. Next, we've got Phillips taking on Raulian Paiva. So Paiva's moving up to 135 here. Kyler has emerged as an interesting prospect at 135, trains at the MMA lab. He's coming off a win over Yadong Song, so solid victory. Before that, he beat an overmatched Cameron Else, and he beat Gabriel Silva in his UFC debut. So, he's looked solid in the UFC so far. Raulian Paiva, he is coming off a fortunate victory, I've got to say, and I had money on Paiva against Zumagulov. I thought Zumagulov done enough to win that fight. Paiva didn't look great in that fight. I think that was the fight where he didn't have a corner, so it was a bit weird for him. Went over to Dubai, didn't have his corner with him. I'm not sure who cornered him in the end, but yeah, I thought he was fortunate to get that decision. Before that, he beat Mark De La Rosa. Before that, he lost to Rogerio Bontorin, a cut. Unfortunate loss. You can't really take anything from that. It was a cut early in the first round, and then he lost a split to Kai Kara France, which, a lot of people thought he won that fight. So maybe he's, he lost the decision there when maybe a fight he should have won, but then he got the decision against Zumagulov. So maybe it's just evened itself out. And we first saw him in a contender series. Paiva, so he's moving up to 135. He's a well-rounded fighter. Generally likes to strike though. He is very hittable. So one thing I will say about Paiva is he's definitely there to be hit. Phillips, if there's a knock on him, it's probably the cardio. We did see him slow down in round 3 against Song, and if you go back and watch his fight with, it was on the regional scene. I think it was the fight before his UFC debut. No, not that fight. It was against Victor Henry. He did slow down in that fight as well. He lost a split decision there. That was like nearly 3 years ago. But I don't know. I mean, he did slow against Songsan. I was going to say maybe now he's training full time and, he's more committed to MMA being in the UFC. But we did see him slow down against Yadong Song. But he did win the first 2 rounds, which is an impressive feat. Song's very solid fighter, great athlete. So it was a really good win. I mean, there's no value on Phillips here. He's, people are probably using him for parlays. He is a prospect. He's the guy that fights at 135 naturally, although I don't think Paiva's going to be outsized or anything. He's big, lanky, flyweight, so I don't think there's really going to be much size difference. But I can get why people are jumping on Phillips here, but Paiva's last fight just leaves a bit of a sour taste in my mouth. It just wasn't a good performance. I wasn't overly impressed. I've got to go Kyler here. I do like him as a prospect. If you can figure out his cardio and it's not a physiological issue and it's something that can be corrected, I think he's a very exciting prospect for the division. So there's no value. I wouldn't play the money line. I'm just going to have a quick look at what the prop prices are. What's Phillips' decision? Phillips TKO plus 400-ish. It's like 100 submission. Decision's going to be rubbish, isn't it? Yeah, it's a pass. Minus money, no thank you. I'll pass here. But I do like Kyler. I think he's a solid prospect, so I'm going to pick him, even though he's juiced, and I don't think there's any value. I'm sticking with my gut here. Co-main event is Aspen Ladd taking on Macy Chiasson. So Aspen's been out a while, knee injury, I think it was. I think this fight's pretty black and white. Aspen Ladd's big advantage is getting Macy to the floor, and Macy's takedown defence isn't great. We've seen that in losses. She lost to Lena Landsberg. Basically got grounded for 2 of the 3 rounds. Is it something she's worked on? I'm sure. We saw Sarah Morris take her down in round 1 and have a long stretch of top control. But she's dangerous on the feet. She can crack on the feet. We saw her drop Pani Kianzad leading to the finish. We saw her one punch Gina Mazzani. The girl's definitely got power in her hands. And we have seen Aspen Ladd stopped on the feet against GDR. So who knows what could happen here. But in terms of ladies, they're definitely 2 with finishing ability. Macy does crack on the feet, and Aspen Ladd's got that evil ground and pound, and she will utilise the primal screams as well, which I honestly think they influence the refs. I honestly do. I think she starts doing that, and it kind of forces the ref to step in. It's quite bizarre, but I do think they do have an influence. Look, I do feel Ladd's at a disadvantage on the feet. So when you look at the line, minus 200, if you're playing that kind of line, I like to be confident that they can hold their own everywhere. Here, I'm not so sure, but I think there is a big advantage on the floor, and I do think she can get Macy down. And I do feel Macy could be in trouble with Aspen Ladd on top of her. We've seen Aspen stop a few ladies from top position, and Macy, I'm not sold on how good she is from the bottom. So I'm going to go Ladd here. I wouldn't play the money line though, just because, as I say, if it does stay on the feet, I think she loses the fight. So if I'm paying that kind of price, I need to be confident everywhere. Ladd wins by KO is plus 300, plus 325. Would have liked a little bit better than that, I guess, but it's definitely live with her ground and pound. Definitely a possibility. I know women's MMA normally KOs, few and far between, but she's a live one for the KO. And Macy KO is plus 700. If you like Macy, I don't think that's the worst bet in the world. Just have a look what Ladd inside the distance is. So plus 200, so 100 points difference in case she snatches a sub. If you're going to bet it, I'd keep it. It's a small bet anyway. I'd just stick with a KO personally if you was going to play it. But I am picking Ladd here. I just think she will get the takedown, and I just think Macy's going to be in trouble from the bottom. Main event, Cory Sandhagen taking on TJ Dillashaw. So really good fight this one. TJ's back for the first time in almost 3 years. He's coming off the drug ban. Don't know what it was, EPO, something like that. He's 35 years of age now. nearly 3 years out, drug ban. They're obviously all red flags. I mean, we saw last week Miesha Tate coming back from 5 years out, 2 kids, look better than ever. But, generally the rule of thumb is that they're not going to look better. And TJ, he's the kind of guy that's probably kept training for all this. So I wouldn't be shocked with his mentality and how he is if he came back and looked as good as ever. It wouldn't actually shock me. And I always remember TJ's transition from being a wrestler to a striker was one of the, in terms of improvement, it's still one of the biggest and most impressive transitions in such a short space of time I've ever seen, from him being a wrestler to suddenly being a really, really solid striker. It was a long time ago now, but when someone has that mental capacity to transform themselves like that, it's a rare thing. It's a rare thing. So I wouldn't be shocked if he comes in here looking fine. A lot of times the game's kind of moved on, and you're not quite the same. And he is 35. He is a 135er, so you do rely on your reflexes and speed, and those things start to dissipate as you get older, and it does affect the lighter fighters quicker. So there is a chance it could be slowed down a little bit. And of course, he's off the drug ban as well. So whether that has any effect on the cardio side of things, I mean, who knows? But having said all that about TJ, he's not facing someone here who is retiring in the next fight like Miesha was, and who's 44 years of age. He's got a prime killer in Cory Sandhagen. On the feet, you've got to give Cory the advantage. The X factor here is the wrestling of TJ. Is TJ going to be able to keep getting takedowns on Cory? Is he going to be able to keep Cory down? Is he going to have the cardio to do this for 5 rounds? How long can he keep the fight on the floor for? The thing with TJ, he's not really like a submission threat. Like Cory will give his back to get back to his feet. We saw the Aljo fight. Aljo took his back and choked him out. It's not really TJ's style. He's got that more grindy wrestling type style on the mat. So Sandhagen is probably going to be okay giving his back to get back to his feet. He's probably going to be able to survive. But it's just, can TJ keep him down if he takes him down, and can his cardio hold? Look, I have to go with Cory, just being the guy in the prime of his fight career. But there obviously is the path for TJ with the wrestling. I don't love the price on Cory, I've got to say. Last week I put a unit on Amanda Lemos just with the sole purpose of using that to roll onto Cory Sandhagen for a unit. So basically I've got a unit on Cory at about -110. I don't normally do that because it's not always foolproof, but I was so confident in Lemos, I just thought, look, it's just going to give me a good price on Cory, because I don't want to pay -180, -190, -200 on Cory. There's just unknowns. It's hard to know what TJ we're going to get, and also Cory's never faced a wrestler of TJ's ability, so there's unknowns here, and I can't pay -200 on someone when there are those question marks. Like I said with the Aspen lad fight and her, I feel being at a disadvantage on the feet, so I can't lay -200. The same here. There is a clear path to victory for TJ here. If I knew Cory could cancel out the grappling of TJ, or TJ was going to have a very difficult time getting him to the mat, then I'd be more enticed to play the -200. But when there is a clear path, like there is for Macy on the feet, like there is for TJ, if he can take down and keep down Cory, I can't get behind that price. It's too wide for me, in my opinion. So I use a little cheeky method there to give me -110. I don't recommend it, because there's nothing more annoying than if that -500 loses and you lose your unit and you don't even get your money on what you actually want to bet, which in this case for me was Cory. But obviously Amanda won, and I've now got my -110, but I kept it at a unit because of the unknowns. I won't go more than the unit on Cory here, but even at -110, which I've got using Lemos, I still wouldn't go big on this fight, just because there are unknowns. And like I said, TJ is the type of guy that it just wouldn't shock me if he came in and looked better. And I know he's been stopped a couple of times with strikes, but I definitely don't think he's chinny. The Cejudo Was it a bad stoppage? Was it early? I mean, either way, it wasn't. He didn't seem out. He wasn't out. I know he got hurt by Cody Garbrandt, but he survived. And even if you go back and watch the John Dodson loss, that was a premature stoppage. So he can be rattled, 100%. Also with the Cejudo fight, that cut to 125 was a. I remember that fight, and I was concerned about his chin moving down to 125. It's not going to do great things for your durability. So it's a great fight to see. Let's see where TJ's at. Let's see where Cory's at, because I would love to see Cory against Peter Yan. It's a fight I'd really like to see. So I want Cory to win in that respect as well. So I will go with Cory, but like I said, I don't think there's any value. I can't fault anyone having a punt at TJ here, but it's been a long time since we've really seen TJ use his wrestling. I think you've got to go back to the John Lineker fight, which is like 5 years ago, off the top of my head. So Cory for me being in the prime. So that breaks down the card, guys. Can't remember how many dogs we picked on this card. I don't think it was many, was it? I ended up going for Minna. Brendan Allen I picked, but that's basically a pick-up. He's not even the dog. Imavov. I think I went Imavov, didn't I? Imavov, Costa, Belbita. So I've picked 3 again this card. Imavov, Belbita, and Costa. So I've gone for 3 again. So let's see how we do this week on the underdogs. Picked out 3 from those. I think it's 12 fights. So good luck with your bets, everyone. Hope you make some money. And I'll be back next week to break down whatever next week's card is. I can't remember who the main event is, but I've looked at the card and it's a very poor card. I think there's a Bellator the same day, and the Bellator card's actually stronger, albeit we did just lose a really good fight on Bellator. It was Stotts against the Russian chap. So it's slightly weakened it, but I think the Bellator card's still stronger, and I don't know if I've ever said that before. But yeah, I don't like next week's from a fan or betting perspective, but is what it is. So I'll be back to break down that card, and I hope we can all make some money this weekend. Good luck, guys.